our society has already become so individualistic, but how do we live out the church? And we need to know what it means to be the church. But before we go into the church, I would like to introduce what kind of things that we're talking about when we talk about individualism, what I mean by this individualistic society. It's because we now live in this, theologians like to call it a postmodern society. Theologians like to call it a post-Christendom. So in the Western world, we're in the postmodern 后现代的社会 we're in the post-Christian, 就是基督教已经不是主流 where Christianity might not be the mainstream thought anymore. And one of those reasons is because individualism has grown so much, and the roots go back to, actually, it's a Christian root. We sometimes Christian, we say, oh, individualism is a very secular idea, but it actually came from our Reformation, from the Martin Luther ages, 马丁路德的教改时代. Then we start to emphasize more on individualism, because before we used to say, oh, the church, the Catholic Church, 大而公的教会, the greater church, we together are the people of God. But Martin Luther said, no, we have to study the Bible on our own. The Bible is the biggest authority, and we should seek God. We should have that personal relationship. And that's how we start to have individualism, because we want to have that personal relationship with God. But that turned out through the shift of the course of history, it became that, in the past 40, 50 years, that has morphed into something else, which, although it has Christian roots, has our personal relationship with God kind of roots, but it's morphed into something that's quite secular and then quite different from the original form already. And that is the emphasis of the self, right? Everybody, when we come to the US, we know, whoa, this is very, everybody is all about the self. Everybody is trying to seek self-realization. Everybody is trying to live out the true self, be myself, all this kind of thought. And that's the elevation of the self. The nuclear family or the extended family that traditionally is the unit now has been broken down to the individual. So that sounds like not a big problem. It's a good thing. We treasure the each individual, and they have their own rights, and we honor that and respect that. So that might not be a bad thing, but the problem with emphasis of the self, the problem comes when we overemphasize the self. I think that is what we should be aware of. But unfortunately, the society, and especially among each younger generation, I'm sure you share some of the same feelings. When we see each newer and newer generation coming up, and that has been more and more prevalent on them, you see the self and their self-realization, being myself kind of thing, stronger and stronger than each previous generation. And so that has led to some of these social phenomena. There's a lot of trends that we see in society today. People coming to big cities, it's inevitable. The whole world is becoming urbanized. This is called the metropolitan effect, where people will group together. People flock to the big cities, the mega cities, like over 10 million people. That's happening throughout the world. Okay, so if you look at like UN data, they'll tell you that it used to be 30% of the world living in big cities, over 1 million, but it's going to become like 70-something% in the next 15, 20 years. Same thing happening in China, everywhere. In Africa, it's everybody flocking to the big cities. But the thing is that there's a really strange phenomenon. See, the city is a big group of people coming together. That's called a city, right? You have dense population, you have more frequent human interaction, you're more crowded, right? But the thing is, now we see this effect, I don't know what others call it, but when I was in Vancouver, you see this a lot. I see it in the papers, and people call. Vancouver has gotten a nickname called the Lonely City. And my my divinity school founder, he's 90 years old at that time. He said, no, I call this the lonely continent. I think North America has become such a lonely continent. And the thing is, that is so ironic because lonely individuals are everywhere. It's some people, like you read the newspapers in Vancouver say, this is an epidemic. 这个是传染病，这个是个瘟疫。People are becoming lonely at the fastest rate. People do polls out there and 30–40% people say, yes, I feel lonely. I don't feel connected to anyone. Is there anyone who I can actually talk to and share my heart? But that is so ironic because we come to city and it's packed with people. Like in Taipei, where I'm from, we have the subway system. The subway system is packed with people. But then you get the picture. If you take a picture of people in the subway station waiting, is the platform is packed, but people are doing this on their cell phone. And then they're not connected to anyone. Right? And then we hear stuff like 茫茫人海中我已经失去了自己. Like in the mountain of people and ocean of people, I have lost myself. And why is that? And Rick has shared quite a few examples with me. Same thing in church. We are a big church, but I don't care big church, I don't care small church. It happens too. We say like he knows some American people and say, hey, I'm at this church 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe 5 years, 10 years. I still am not finding that Christian friendship, that brotherly, sisterly bonding that I'm looking for. And I know we advertise that a lot on life groups. Hey, join a life group, grow together, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, for the fortunate people, hey, God bless them with a life group that they fit and they feel the connection. Good. I think most of you have that. Good. But not everybody is as blessed and fortunate as you are. There's people out there and they say they don't get connected, but they're around tons of people. Every Sunday we come 800 people in the East Side, but some are still feeling lonely. And so that's the irony. That's the big irony of this individualistic world. We come, and the urbanization, two coming together should solve the problem, but actually increase the problem. The more we try to come to the city to have a better future of self-realization, to build ourselves and form ourselves into a more, the beauty of the self that you're looking for, that you're trying to manifest, but you're actually losing yourself. That is such a strange phenomenon. It's quite an irony. And that's the same thing with social media, right? We have kids, this generation is 20% depression. And social media and video games have been proven to cause loneliness and depression. So it's a strange phenomenon. And that's why when I say, okay, we see the path, the trend of individualism growing, and it has grown into a monster. And with that originally good intent of trying to find self-realization and self-manifestation, we sacrifice so much without knowing it. But now we're starting to realize, because we're not connected. We go to social media, supposedly it brings us people together at all times, instantly, instant messaging. But that has proven to cause more isolation. It's clinically proven, or I mean psychologically proven that social media, although it's trying to make you more social, right? It's always being connected with people who you are befriending, but that's causing more isolation, more depression and loneliness. So that is the huge irony. So now with that, these facts in hand, now we should think then, what is the role of the church? What does the Bible say? What does God want us to do in this kind of age and society, right? What does the gospel of Jesus Christ mean in this kind of world anymore? Does it still mean everything? Yes, of course it does. The Church of Jesus Christ, what are we? We are a web of believers. That means we're all interconnected. We should be very connected. We should be deeply connected, like a web. So one of these, some of you might heard, but like a web of believers, we're all interconnected, like this picture, right? So we are a massive web, no matter how big, how small, and then we are all interlinked. But I would like to point that this is not the best diagram or picture, because there's fundamentally something wrong with it. And it's not I wonder if you can spot it. It's not the size of the circles for the people. Assume that every circle and every person in it is the same size, but there's still something fundamentally mistaken here. I don't know, can you spot it? If this were to represent the Church of Jesus Christ, that's us, but what's wrong with it? There's no Jesus in there, that's right. So I can't find a big picture with Jesus in the middle. And it's actually not even Jesus being in the middle. It's Jesus being, but so the best picture I would like to find a more proper representation of what I call the web of believers is like, I would like to find a picture of a good big bundle of 粽子 that Dragon Boat Festival food we have. It's a sticky rice with meat in it, but it's all grouped together by a bunch of strings. And what is that, all those strings attached to? The top. And that's what I mean by 联手于基督. We are not a web. Look at me, like my fingers, we're crisscrossed together. Yes, we have close interpersonal relations. Oh, Guangshan is my good brother. Oh, I like to have meals in his house. Oh, we go to picnic together. Oh, we go to whatever together. So we're good brothers and so. We can develop that, and that's good. But the real representation, the real meaning is not just this, like this picture. No, it's the top is Jesus, 联手于耶稣基督. So we're connected to Jesus like that bundle of 肉粽. That's how we should be connected. And through that, through the first I'm connected to Jesus, then I'm connected to Guangshan. So my relationship with Guangshan is not this, is not horizontal. It's not. That's something we have to understand. It's actually a projectile relationship. There's no dotted line in between me and him. No, there is a straight line to Jesus, and then there's a straight line down. For him, it's a straight line to Jesus and straight line down here. Jesus is the bridge person. Then that way I can look at him more and more truly as who he is in Jesus' eyes. Him doing the same thing, he will be able to look at me more truly like how Jesus sees me. And I will treat him like a prince because he's God's son. He will treat me like a prince because he knows I'm a child of God. That is the church relationship. So we know that when we have established that, we are truly connected. And that connection is actually a part of us. That connection is a part of our identity. It's not just our connection, as if there's something like attached, like there's this string. No, that string is actually part of me. So that's why when we leave a relationship, we actually feel lost. We actually feel something missing in our hearts, because let's say if I become such good friends with Guangshan, and then one day I say, pretend, the church fired me, I have to go home to Taiwan. Of course, this is not happening, okay? But just in case, okay, that happened, and I feel so sad. Guangshan is my good brother. Now I have to leave. And then he gives me a goodbye dinner. And then in the goodbye dinner, I feel like, oh, I'm actually losing something. I feel the sadness. Why? Because I'm actually losing part of myself by leaving him and his family if I am so connected with him. That's part of me. So this thing, our interconnectivity is what? Is because I have my life story. You have your life story. You have how God has lead you, and in the future, how he will lead you. I have how God has led me, my upbringing, my education, my first, how old am I, 45 years of my life, and then there's however many left, and then that's my story. But the cool thing is, our lives are, my story and your story are connected. So I'm writing my own book, you're writing your own book, but I'm a character in your book, and you're a character in my book. That's how our stories are interconnected. 我的故事是你的故事，你的故事也是我的故事，我是你故事中的一个角色，你也是我的故事中的一个角色。That's what we are. So that's why when we, as true brothers and sisters, when we leave each other, or when we lose part of us. So that defines that. So that's why I'm trying to tell you the definition of the self and the definition of the church. We are, you're part of my story, I'm part of your story, and also we are creating our story together. There's our story, 我们的故事 together as this body of Christ. So that's why we need to know that the self is actually not the individual. The self is more than individual. The self is this connection. The self is this interconnectivity.